News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, we begin with the latest this morning from the NATO Leaders Summit in The Hague. President Trump has left the gathering after calling it a major success, finalizing a significant defense spending boost from member states.
This week, the NATO allies committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, "You did it, sir. You did it." Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did.
The president spoke at a news conference following the NATO gathering, heard live on Bloomberg Radio. The new agreement gives member nations until 2035 to reach that 5% spending threshold.
Nathan, also at the NATO Summit, President Trump opened the door to diplomacy with Iran after last weekend's airstrikes on its main underground nuclear sites.
We're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary.
The president repeated his argument that the strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. An initial Pentagon assessment says it may have set the program back just a few months. Bloomberg's Giovanna Percecci has more on where the talks could go from here.
In the run-up to this war, 5 rounds of discussions had taken place, mediated by Oman, by Qatar, in order to progress with the nuclear deal. The 6th round was supposed to take place a couple of days after the war began, but of course, the 12-day war then ensued, putting back all of those discussions. Now the U.S. are expressing optimism that the two sides can find some form of an agreement. Yesterday, the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, in an interview said, "We are hopeful for a comprehensive peace agreement. The signs are there."
And Bloomberg's Giovanna Percecci reporting from Dubai. President Trump says the war between Iran and Israel is effectively over after the U.S. bombing campaign, though he says it could start again.
And Karen, President Trump is once again taking aim at Jay Powell. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the president could actually announce a replacement for Powell as Fed chair as soon as September. The president says he has a list of people to succeed Powell when his term expires next year.
I know within 3 or 4 people who are going to pick. I mean, he goes out pretty soon, fortunately, because I think he's terrible.
President Trump has called on Chairman Powell to lower interest rates by 2.5 points. Last week, the Fed decided to keep rates unchanged in the range of 4.25% to 4.5%. Markets are pricing 62 basis points of easing by the end of the year. The chance of a cut in July remains at about 20%.
Meanwhile, Nathan Powell wrapped up 2 days of congressional testimony on Capitol Hill. The head of the Fed repeated his message that it's tough to figure out how tariffs will affect inflation.
The question is, who's going to pay for the tariffs? Originally, it's the importer, but it gets passed along through the distribution chain to some extent to the consumer. The ultimate question of it is how much of it does show up in inflation. And honestly, it's very hard to predict that in advance.
Powell told the House Financial Services Committee that recent economic data is backward-looking, and many economists expect a meaningful increase in inflation over the course of this year due to tariffs. As for the equity markets, futures are higher ahead of the Thursday session, and shares of Micron Technology, they're up 2% in early trading. The chipmaker is forecasting stronger than expected revenue this quarter, citing booming demand for AI-related chips. Micron has been one of the chip industry's hottest stocks this year. Shares have gained more than 50% so far in 2025.
Even hotter, Karen, fellow chipmaker NVIDIA. That stock's trading at a record high this morning and up another 1% in the pre-market. NVIDIA shares have risen 63% off their April low, a rally that's added nearly $1.5 trillion to the company's market capitalization. NVIDIA has now overtaken Microsoft as the world's biggest stock with a market cap of nearly $3.8 trillion.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.